Good afternoon, everyone. There's nothing like your watch telling you to meditate 5 minutes before you go on. Okay, so how do we get from test paralysis to 20 tests a month? And that's what I'm going to talk to you about today. I think. There we go. Okay, so I'm going to start with the results. And over here you can see our velocity curve. In 2025, we shipped around 20 experiments. And then at the beginning of 2026, we actually ended up running 20 experiments in 1 month alone. Now, that projection is quite ridiculous. I'll be honest, I don't think we'll run 240 experiments this year because we still only have a team of 2. But yeah, that leads me to talk through the challenges that we have tried to overcome and are beginning to sort of see the fruition of our labor, so to speak. So CRO, in a team of 2, actually one of our biggest bottlenecks was development resource sat in a broader pool with the web team, and we didn't necessarily have an abundance of influence over that backlog. But we try to influence, we provide briefs, we provide evidence with data on why we should run an experiment. But that still didn't mean that we could move tests along that test lifecycle all the time. The second challenge was disconnected data. And a lot of people today have spoken about how we should be connecting different data sources into single interfaces and just having a conversation with AI to produce a really tangible next step and outcome. And so the problem for us wasn't that we had a lack of tools or that we had too many tools. Every tool was doing what it should do. We use Hotjar by Contentsquare, Optimizely, Miro, Asana, and they're all great. But yeah, they really lacked that connection. And so the third challenge I'll speak to you about today as well is we didn't really have a playbook for what came next. So at Employment Hero, we tend to emerge into a new market quite rapidly. We will acquire new team members on the growth team. And as always, like every channel wants to run experimentation and drive more conversions on their landing page experiences, whether that be CRM or paid search. But there was no blueprint for them to do that, no single place for them to meet the standards and quality that we expect. And so we went about building custom agents. So I'm going to be your AI workflow guy for the day, plus the vibe code guy for the day as well. And so the first agent that we actually built was our research agent. This was just to give us a little bit of, this was to give us the quality output that we needed from all the research that we wanted to run. There was heaps of questions around the business that needed answering. And so our research agent can ingest raw data, it can analyze heat maps, interview notes, and can run thematic analysis across anything. And it's connected to Claude via Anthropic's API. And those outputs are structured really, really cleanly, as we can see on screen here, in a single interface where we can drill down into those insights and understand how might we statements. And that's all about problem and solution. So the how might we statement is really architected in a way to, give us a solution to the problem. Our copy agent can write up to 3 variants per experiment, or in some cases, each individual block. And what we've done is ingrain tone of voice guardrails for Employment Hero because, we need to sound on brand. We've also integrated PMM reviews so that we keep that human element around fact-checking and that we're not going to market with some random experiment that gets us in hot water with legal and we end up with cease and desist from competitors. Our designer agent is actually really impressive. Now, this was the one that's taken quite a lot of work to get to where it is today. I think we're probably all aware that AI can generate AI slop. Everything regresses to the mean when it comes to prompting AI for design, and everything looks the same. But we really didn't want that. And so we engineered our designer agent to actually listen to our brand web UI and listen to our UI tokens so that the results are consistent with what our website looks like. And this has gotten much, much better first time around. Yeah, it is quite quickly, actually. Our engineering agent, this is what's really accelerated our test velocity. So our engineering agent is actually Claude. Again, we use Claude quite a lot. But Claude Code can build a variation based off of that prototype that we have handed it, all with the click of a button from within the app itself. And so we're generating tests through that test lifecycle really, really quickly. Our Claude API is, our engineering agent is that clever that it can also detect what tracking is needed on an experiment so that we can measure the outcomes properly, especially if there's something custom that we need to build. So, one interface for the full test lifecycle, and this is where it gets really interesting. So the second challenge was all about those disconnected tools. So now we've sort of built these agents, we still didn't want to have to jump between them and manually transfer data from one platform to the next in order to run our program. And so what we wanted to do was consolidate everything into one interface, something that just connected everything. And so I'll show you the architecture of what we built now. And so our input layer is all of the research that we conduct, whether qualitative or quantitative, and we feed raw data into these individual agents. We push it through to Optimizely, which sends everything back into our single interface, where we can view everything that a program needs to view, anything that you need to run a program on. So planning and prioritization, your A/B test results, your program performance, and we've even created a training and sort of insight library section so that we're continuously storing the recent A/B test results. And so what does this all mean without any actual output as well? Yes, it's great that we can now ship loads and loads of tests, but there's still expectations around outputs, whether it's exec reporting, launch, comms, any experiment that's going live. We need to let the business know. And so our interface can also do that. We have a dashboard that is able to run those outputs with just the click of a button as well. Again, the copy agent actually doubles up here. It can structure all of our comms how we've asked it to, so it's audience ready. So an exec doesn't get a 5-page Confluence document. They get a really succinct Slack post. And so, time for the audience participation. I'm going to take you through a real example as well of an A/B test that we ran at Employment Hero. Actually, sorry, still running at Employment Hero. And yeah, I'm going to ask you the same question that we asked visitors on our homepage. And so I want you to imagine yourselves as a small business owner. And if I was to ask you, how do you feel about AI running employment processes, how would you feel? So let's color code this. Reds, you would take convincing. Blues, comfortable with oversight. Greens, you'd be very comfortable. Mostly blues. Yeah, okay. I think I'm the same, to be honest. So these were our results. Actually, most of the people in the room were blue, which is pretty cool. But 50% of our audience felt that they might. Well, we didn't actually ask them if they need convincing. This was just the result of the research. But they need a little bit of convincing. They need some messaging to help them understand and trust Employment Hero's AI processes. 26% were comfortable with oversight, and 24% were very comfortable. That is a pretty meaningful segment of comfort to me. I think that's pretty good. We actually asked some follow-up multiple choice questions that asked about what those barriers might be as well. And so these could really help us handle any objections up front on the website before yeah, before anyone looked at trying to book a demo with our sales team. And they were data security, loss of control, and compliance anxiety. Those were the key themes. And so you can watch this video now. As it runs through, this is the interface where I was able to put all of this data and then simply just run it through the test lifecycle. This experiment in particular had 12 steps, and you can see from the color code in there, we had mostly sort of agents running the admin, the prototyping, and just the labor that we didn't have the resource to do at the time. And there are human interventions to allow for quality and just to make sure we're producing something that is on brand and consistent with the site. And that's obviously really important to us as well. I'll sort of let this video run through a little bit more. That's actually the weekly pulse screen where you'll see live results as well. Per variant, you'll see uplift or negative performance, and you're just able to move things along that test life cycle really, really easily. Okay, this is what the test looked like. So we've got our control and variant here, and if you cast your mind back to those top barriers, there was data security, compliance, and human oversight. And that's what we decided to lead the experiment with, was that messaging. And we built an accordion to go across our product pages so that people could see this quite early on in their review of that individual product page, how we tackle each individual sales objection. And so that's the result there. And actually, this is still live. I think it's now 13 days in, and I took this cut of data a couple of days ago. There was a 6% overall engagement rate on the component itself, and it's already leading to a 30% increase of form fills on our website. So what's changed for Employment Hero then? So designers no longer start from zero, and that's really important. So we do actually have design checkpoints where we ask our designers to look at what we're producing, just to make sure that this is the best possible experience from the hypothesis generated. A brief to the moment a test can go live has gone from sometimes weeks, I'll be honest, down to days, and in some cases, genuinely minutes. And that handoff chain that, took all that time has been significantly reduced, and it's just incredible. So engineering and design gaps have been truly solved for. A team of 2 can now run experimentation a lot easier across 3 markets. We're able to find the time to speak to marketing leaders across each individual entity to understand what their goals and objectives are so that we can really drive localized strategies. And so that's part of becoming now a global experimentation function. And the fourth one is CRO has become more of a strategic lever. And sort of what I just alluded to there, but execution is now super simple and efficient. And so we're able to spend the time having those conversations with other marketing leaders, which is obviously really important, and answering the questions and running the experiments we need to align to their objectives and the company's mission. So what's next? I think we all, like many of you, I've also suffered from AI fatigue, and it can just get really frustrating sometimes with the output, and but it is what it is, Velocity is the outcome, right? But it's not the most important metric of all. I think we still want to strive for quality. So what we built might be as cliche as it sounds, a team member that can do the heavy lifting and take the tasks off of our plate that we might not necessarily either have the capacity to do, or the jobs that we maybe just don't like sometimes. So quality is next, and this AI interface and quote-unquote team member of ours really needs to up their game in quality. So that's why we won't run 240 experiments with a team of 2. We want to focus on the quality output now, even though we know that is unlocked. So we're going to deepen our partnership with Optimizely next. We're going to take this interface and this overall product, so to speak, from binary A/B testing into more agentic personalization to drive super relevant experiences across the site. We want to expand our creative capability as well. So Claude's limitation at the moment as well is it still needs assets in order to build a compelling variant in any experiment. And we really want to expand that creative capability, and we're going to look at integrations with other AI platforms like 11 Labs for audio and visual so that we can produce really well-branded content as well. And so, yeah, we've got an in-house brand agency, so I'll work alongside how we integrate with them and remove the handoff entirely. Now, there still needs to be a lot of human intervention, but the handoff I'm specifically talking about is that engineering handoff. It's like design to engineering, rather. And at the moment, like, we have to still produce a Figma file to give it to the engineering agent, but I think we can potentially even remove that. And with the quality of UI AI, which is a mouthful, always increasing, especially over the last few months, I think we'll be able to find ourselves there pretty quickly. So what are the things worth taking with you? The build step is the bottleneck you don't have to accept. And so if you are in an experimentation team or not, but you rely on engineering resource or design resource for a lot of your work to be executed, that barrier is genuinely going away now, and you can move quicker. The gap between your tools is where velocity dies, and this was very true for us. But that manual transfer, you always risk losing context, and then as soon as you transfer information from one platform to the next, if you've not lost context, another person can pick it up and think something else anyway and about the brief. And so what our system has done is really just drive that consistency across each platform in terms of how briefs are written. And the third one, which is super important, run CRO like a product team. So if there is a CRO team in here, I would suggest running it as a product team. It's impossible then to deprioritize. If you're constantly shipping features that unlock efficiency and drive quality of experimentation, you're going to drive growth for the business, and you're going to be able to prove it with hard metrics such as revenue and test velocity. And if you're able to do that, you will get more investment. And my grand plan is actually to continue hiring. I don't want to replace humans with AI. I want humans to work alongside AI. And I'm going to continue to hire people to own the research agent, people to own the developer agent, technical people, not just vibe coders. And so that way we can continue to strive for quality. So I'll close off with this. Actually, before I do, she's in the room today, Clara. She is the second member of the team. And yeah, I just wanted to give her a huge shout out. Like, without her, the CRO team would not be where it is today. Like, she just has endless creativity and execution. And yeah, just thank you very much. I think when you, yeah, clap. Let's give her a clap. Oh. Actually, that was my last slide. So